We are continuing our conversations with Caribbean women founders, industry leaders, and experts on the podcast this season. And of course, we are discussing how we as Caribbean women can maximize our economic impact while maintaining our well being. My guest today, Karin Wilson-Edmonds, joins us from Jamaica. Karin is an ex corporate professional, but she transitioned into wellness coaching. She is a certified wellness coach, a yoga and Pilates teacher, a Reiki practitioner, and she is the founder of Bloom, an online yoga and wellness membership specifically designed for women over 40s. Karen now specializes in working with women navigating perimenopause and menopause, those dealing with joint pain, and busy women juggling multiple responsibilities and struggling to prioritize their own health.
Do you aspire to an uncomplicated and fulfilling way of life? I'm Diane Squires, aka Deanne. That's what all my friends call me. I'm an island woman living on the island of Barbados and walking my path to a big and simple life. Walk with me and learn with me. Welcome to the Island Woman Podcast.
Karen, I'm so happy to have you because we were supposed to do this weeks ago, but of course, Hurricane Melissa had something to say about that. So it's extra special to have you here safe and sound for this episode.
Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here finally.
And fun fact for those of you who are watching or listening, Karen and I are not strangers. We met over 20 years ago now?
Long time, yes.
Yes. When I was a full-time student in dance at the Edna Manley College in Kingston in Jamaica. And Karen, you used to do the evening classes because you were in corporate at the time, right?
Yes, yes. And I guess what, Diane? I'm still doing the same classes.
What?
I still am doing that same evening dance class, 6 o'clock, modern and folk. Yes. I took a break for a while and I went back to it because, dance is one of my first loves.
I usually start with a little icebreaker, and so we're going to jump into this question. If you had to create a survival kit for a Caribbean woman entrepreneur and you could only put 3 things in there, what would you pack? The order of priority.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I would say the first thing would be to find your community, find your support system.
Yeah.
So whether that is a partner, a friend, a coach, a group, whatever it is, find some way, some type of support system, because being an entrepreneur is not easy. You know, it can be a long haul, and just having people around you who understand what you're doing, who understand, your mission, your passion, your goal. It really is important to have some kind of support
Yeah.
along the way. So I would say that's my number one thing that
Uh,
I would
support
pack
that.
in my kit. Yeah, that would be it. I guess if I had to choose 2 more things, it would be patience. That would be in there too, to have patience. Success does not happen overnight, at least not for me, hasn't happened. Sometimes it can be a long haul before you see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I would say patience, don't give up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then lastly, just, in those tough times, remembering why you're doing what you're doing. I think especially in the Caribbean, the traditional role for women or for people in general is to, get a job, get paid, get a salary, and you sort of do that for your life. But if you decided to be an entrepreneur, you have to remember why you're doing what you're doing when times get tough and you're thinking, oh, should I go back to what I was doing before? Should I go back and pack it all in and just get the salary? But some of us just don't want to do that. So
Yeah. Community, patience, and remembering your why. How has community played a part for you? Because that's your number one choice. You're in wellness. How has that worked for you?
I think it's really helped me a lot to have some good close friends who are also entrepreneurs. I have 2 good friends in particular who are entrepreneurs. One of them has an online business. Another one, it has her own marketing company. which I also had for a long time. So I think it's just really helpful to have people in your life, in your circle, that are sort of doing something similar,
Mhm.
going along the same journey that you're going along, so that, when you're frustrated, when you're like, okay, I'm going to pack this in or whatever, you could talk to them and get support, get encouragement, be motivated. Because I find a lot of times it's not that we don't know what to do, but it's the emotional support that's important.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
really
for sure.
to
For
find it
sure.
whatever way you can.
Yeah. When we met, I know you were working in corporate, but I don't remember what your role was. What were you doing in corporate before becoming a wellness coach?
Okay, well, probably at the time when we met, she said it was about 20 years ago. Yeah, I was probably already starting my consulting business. I was a marketing consultant for a long time. I kind of morphed into development consulting, management consulting. I did a lot of different types of consulting projects. I was in tourism, I was in education, I was in finance. Did a lot of different kind of consulting projects. So, but that was probably what I was doing at the time, which I
Yeah.
enjoy, and I did it for a long time.
What made you make the transition to wellness coaching? Was there a specific moment or something that happened that you went, okay, this is what I need to do?
Okay, well, I actually started as a yoga teacher. That was the first thing that I did. And I had actually become a yoga teacher probably more than 20 years ago. But I became certified when I was living in the US, never really meaning to ever be a teacher. I just did it because I was interested in yoga and was like, oh, let me just get certified. You never know.
Yeah.
Uh, and at one point, I think what happened, I just started to feel, I guess, unfulfilled maybe is the word. I was enjoying what I was doing. But I was just kind of starting to think about, okay, is this really what I want to be doing for the next 20 years or 30 years or how much ever long? I started to feel like just being pulled in another direction. I wasn't even sure at the time what it was. My husband used to say to me, well, you keep saying you don't want to do what you're doing, but you don't know what you want to do. And I was like, well, I just don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Uh, but then about the same time, my body also started talking to me. My body started talking to me like big time. I started to develop shoulder issues, nerve issues in my arms and my hands from years and hours. Well, sitting in front of a computer,
Yeah.
bad posture, rounded, hunched over a computer. I mean, as a consultant, you can spend, hours and hours and hours in front of a computer
Yes, you
writing
can.
reports. And I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. I need to find something to get me away from my computer. I cannot spend 10 hours a day in front of a computer. I started to get thoracic outlet syndrome, which I can go into in more detail if you really want me to, but it's basically compression of the nerves in your chest start to affect your hands and your fingers. Long story short, my body was talking to me and telling me I needed to find something else to do that was going to get me up out of my chair, not in front of my computer. My mother actually also got ill probably about 17, 18 years ago. She was diagnosed with two types of cancer, and I was just like really focused on wellness and her wellness. And I just was like, one thing led to another. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use my yoga training and I'm gonna start teaching yoga. And I started teaching my parents actually.
Really?
Those
Okay.
were my first students. I
They're
start,
good students to have though, Karen. The people who've been telling you what to do for
yeah.
most of your life, you now have to be their teacher. That's interesting.
Well, my father said yoga is the only kind of exercise that he likes. They were both probably in their 70s at the time. And I started just teaching them for practice, not even intending to really use it to create a new career out of. But I was like, let me use it. And I think I was doing yoga more for myself at the time because I transitioned from dance into yoga as well because of
Yeah.
knee issues. After 20 years of dance, my knees weren't talking to me. Um, and then a yoga studio in Kingston saw a picture of me online on Facebook, I think, of me teaching my parents. And the studio owner called me up and said, oh, you're teaching yoga? Come and teach at the studio. And I was like, no, 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 I'm not really a yoga teacher. I'm just kind of teaching my parents. I'm not really a teacher. And she's like, no, 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 come and teach. And that, long story short, that was That was the beginning of the new career, me going into teaching yoga. And I did that for about 10 years. And I only recently got certified as a wellness coach probably 2 years ago.
Oh,
So the wellness
wow.
coaching is new.
So, okay. So if we go from maybe the early 2000s and then all the way up to 2019, you were teaching yoga,
Yeah. Yeah.
in-person yoga classes, but along comes our friend in 2020, our notorious friend, COVID-19, all across the globe. And of course, now yoga classes are not possible in person, but somehow you made an opportunity out of that. Tell me about what happened.
Yeah, that was an interesting time. So, all of a sudden, basically overnight, your business is gone. I was teaching a bunch of privates, going to their houses, doing one-on-one yoga classes in person, teaching at different studios in Kingston, all over Kingston, and that just was not possible anymore. That was just like literally like one day you just couldn't do it. So I saw other people, moving online and teaching online. And now at first I was like, yoga online? How is that possible? That's never going to work. That's like,
Yeah.
nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to want to do it. You have to be able to see people, all of that stuff that you probably can imagine. But, I didn't really have a choice. I was like, well, if I'm going to continue to teach my students, obviously this is a time where people need it.
Yeah.
They need to be moving their body. They need to be managing stress. They need to be doing something in their house. So I basically had to figure out, with the help of my technical director husband, who was actually away, stuck in the US for 5 months. So I was in Jamaica by myself. And over the phone, he was like, okay, Karin, connect this wire to this, part of the computer. Connect this microphone to this, to the turn on. I was like, because I'm not particularly technologically savvy. So he walked me through it. I figured out how to use Zoom to teach. And at first I was like, okay, well, let me see if anybody comes. And people came. And that's kind of how the whole online thing started. I just started teaching classes online. That was before Bloom. Yeah, that was before Bloom.
Yeah.
And so after a while I was like, well, it's not so bad, people people, as I say to people, doing yoga online has pros and cons, right? It's great if you don't want to ever have to leave your house. A lot of people are intimidated by doing yoga in a studio. uh,
Yes.
Really good for people who just want to, turn on their computer, be led. I actually have a great setup right now because I have a huge monitor where I can see people really well. And yeah, that's kind of how it works.
And so Bloom was born. There's a wonderful website up there. Really, really powerful testimonials from people who've had a lot of help from you. I've read them.
Thank you.
So how is that going now? How have you adapted after going through COVID and these last 5 years?
Yeah, yeah. I think this year is Bloom's. I think it's fourth anniversary, and yeah. So we've just kind of, when I launched Bloom, it was really about yoga. It was really about teaching yoga to people online, and then I realized that the group of women that were coming, because I think at the time it was 95% women who were coming, or maybe I had a few men. The community connection was really important. Like we would talk after class, we would get together, and I started having these sessions which were not yoga. It was just about getting together as a community and talking about what was going on with us. And I realized that there was a need for not just yoga, but just having a community online for women over 40 where we could start to talk about our life and what was going on. And this was before menopause was a thing, because I feel like menopause is a thing now, where it wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah.
So I decided, Bloom became much more about, yoga. It became more about having a wellness community for women over 40. And I started also introducing what I call wellness talks. So I would get experts on different subjects, whether it was like a physical therapist or a psychologist or, art therapist or different people to come and talk to the group of women. Because,
Yeah.
so we'd have wellness talks on different topics, like the presenter would facilitate and we'd sort of have a back and forth. So Bloom is really meant to be more than just about yoga. Well, now it's Pilates and strength training, but we do get together. As a wellness coach, I do, wellness coaching sessions as well with members. So it's kind
Yeah.
of grown and evolved into different areas.
Yeah.
We are today.
It has. I mean, your bio really humorously, I think, says you describe yourself as a recovering hot mess from menopause. But speaking of perimenopause and menopause, I am not really aware of how much research there has been in the Caribbean on this. But I shared with you a study that was done by a Stanford University professor. Her name is Petra Person, and just reading a little excerpt from some of that abstract, the study says that women who visit a healthcare provider for menopause related symptoms 4 years later are earning 10% less. And the reason they cite is that many of those women are forced or feel that they have to reduce their work hours or they quit altogether. Of course, it does say that a lot of these women are in labor intensive roles, but I wanted to know, as someone who described yourself as a hot mess,
Hmm.
recovering hot mess after menopause, and someone who now works with women who are going through that and you're doing the wellness talks and so on. What do you see? Do these women talk about how menopause or perimenopause is impacting their earning ability?
That's an interesting question as well. I think, up till recently, menopause wasn't really a thing, right? I mean, we just kind of went through our careers, suffered with the symptoms. Yes, if you have severe symptoms, like really severe anxiety or severe joint pain or severe sleep issues, I can totally see how it could affect your earnings or your role in the organization. I mean, if I was in corporate when I was going through I would say the worst of my symptoms, I don't know if I would have been able to function at the top of my game for like for some of that time. I hate to say that women are not capable of doing whatever it is that we need to do, because I think most of us, probably all of us, we push through,
We
we get it
push
done.
through.
We push through, we get it done. We could be having a hot flash in the middle of an important meeting. We're going to be there. We're going to stand up and we can have sweat dripping down our face. We're going to do it. We're going to be there. It just
Yeah.
is, it's just harder, right? It's just harder. And at some point, you might just say to yourself, you know what? I mean, at the time I was traveling a lot. I might be like, listen, I'm not willing to get on a plane every other week and travel because I just don't have the energy, or I'm anxious about flying now, which I was never anxious about before. So I could totally see how it could affect just, I don't know if it's the income earnings. I think maybe it's the ambition that you might have once you're 40, 45, 50 changes. Not that you have less ambition, but you're just much more willing or much less willing to put yourself and your own needs on the back burner. You're not willing to give it all up for running somebody else's business or being in somebody else's organization.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? It's like, that's kind of how I think it could impact. Women just decide, listen, I need to take care of myself, whatever
Yeah.
it means. Maybe it's less hours, maybe it's less traveling, maybe it's whatever that means. Maybe it's changing a career like
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really do like that perspective. I mean, whichever way you think about it, I think people like you are probably helping a lot of women kind of maintain that ambition or that earning potential, because you are specifically addressing one of the things that's affecting them at that time, which is their sense of well-being. There's a lot of things changing all at once. It's confusing, it's strange, but you still have to kind of manage your day to day. So do you think about yourself as a professional who's impacting or having a positive impact on a woman's earning potential or her ambition?
I don't know if I would say I'm having an impact on women's ambition or earning potential, but I'd like to think that I'm having a positive impact on women's wellness and their ability or willingness to put themselves, if not first, in the top three on their top list of things to do. Where you give yourself permission to take care of yourself, to set boundaries, to make time for yourself, to rest if you need to rest, exercise, because so many women, especially at this age, everything else comes first, right? It's the partner, it's the children, it's the grandchildren, it's the work, it's whatever it is. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted, and you just like, you're just last on the
You're no
list.
use to anybody else, including yourself.
Exactly. I mean, it's a tough time of life. I mean, you're probably taking care of your aging parents too, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, it's like everything on top of you all at once at a time when you have all this other stuff going on when you don't even know what's necessarily going on. You're
Yeah.
more tired because you're not sleeping. You're probably having joint pain. You're having brain fog, maybe anxiety. So it's a tough time. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It can be a tough time for many women, and other women, on the other hand, don't have these same symptoms. So I'm
Yeah.
not trying to say everybody's the same. Some women have very little symptoms and are like, "What are you talking about? What is a hot flash?" You know.
So true. So true. I want to though zero in on you and you as a founder, you making an economic impact because let's face it, if you are earning on your own, you are a founder, you're running a business, you are having some kind of an economic impact. And on this platform, I talk about having a big and simple life, which may seem like a contradiction, but is that pairing of having your big ambition and a sense of well-being. And hopefully those two things play well together. So I want to ask you about those two things in your own life. If we were to put your drive as a founder on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is it's not a priority at all, and 10 is up here on this is an absolute life mission. How committed are you, Karin, to scaling your business to a multi-million-dollar, globally impactful enterprise?
Hmm. I would say it's pretty high up there. I don't know if it's a 10, but it's pretty high up there. It's probably a 8 or a 9. I definitely want to scale. I definitely want to grow. I'm already international. I have bloomers from all, the US, Canada, as well as Jamaica. Actually, I have a bloomer from Barbados. So I'm definitely trying to grow as, as I wouldn't necessarily as fast as I can, but in a sensible way. I want to expand in a sensible way. But growing is very important to me. I want to, I don't really want to go back to my old lifestyle. So I'm committed to making this business work. And in order for it to work, it needs to grow. So it needs to continue to
Yeah.
evolve. And I know I can do it. So it's just a matter of time and putting in what needs to happen. And I don't necessarily believe in working harder either. I believe in working smarter, using technology, which is continually changing and evolving as well. So, but I am definitely committed to growing. And I don't know about global, but hey, that sounds good. Why not? Right?
Why not? Why
Why
not?
not?
So you're an 8 on the ambition scale. And I feel, Karen, like, but maybe you can tell me if this is true or not. Some of that corporate experience that you had, marketing, consulting for other businesses and helping them grow is now kind of going back into your business as well.
Absolutely. That is 100% true. Absolutely. All my skills as a marketer, in sales, in branding, especially in advertising, every single thing I learned in my career, I am using in my business. So for sure, it's helping a lot. Although marketing has changed a lot also in the
Yeah.
last 30, 40 years. I mean, I started at Procter and Gamble a million years ago where marketing was about like doing ads for, the newspaper and TV and that kind of thing. And nobody's doing that now. It's all digital and it's online and it's social media and it's that kind of stuff. Looking
Yeah.
at cost per clicks and all that stuff.
Yes.
So I've had to learn new marketing stuff too. You have to evolve to grow with your business. So
Okay. All right.
yeah.
So that's the big ambition, 8 on the scale. I want to go to well-being now, which is really your area. I mean, that's your area of business, but you personally, if we put your current sense of personal well-being, so your time for life outside of work, your sense of freedom, and we put that on the scale. 0 is constantly stressed, and 10 is perfectly balanced? What number represents your life today?
Well, I could never say perfectly balanced, but I would not say constantly stressed either. So, um, I I think I'm probably close to maybe a 7. I think having your own business, it's not, it's not without its stress, but I think it's definitely more manageable because the pressure that you have is the pressure that you put on yourself. The deadlines that
Mm.
you have are the deadlines that you give yourself. You don't have some boss telling you that XYZ has to happen by this date. Again, my husband is always telling me, Karen, you don't have to stick to that deadline. That's your own deadline that you gave yourself. When I'm stressing about, oh, but I have to start this by X date or that by, he's like, no, you don't. You can decide to move it back a month or a week or whatever.
Yeah.
So I would say, and my life right now, I would say it's pretty good because I have to be flexible. I am taking not 100% care of my parents, but both my parents are still alive. They're elderly. They require a lot of time from me, and I'm not complaining at all because that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I know they're not going to be here forever, so I am dedicating a lot of time to be able to be with my parents at this
Yeah.
time. And family relationships are important, friends are important. Really try hard to carve out time for friends, family experiences. And sometimes that means, you don't write that extra email for your business.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
just has to give, or you don't do that extra whatever you were going to do for your business. And so be it.
Yeah. And I think you have to have a sense of peace with that too, to say these are the things that I'm kind of willing to forego to enjoy the things that really matter most to me now. Even though you still have that wonderful big ambition, you come to the realization that I think you're able to zero in more on what is really important and get into that ambition. Because sometimes we can do so many, extra things that keep us busy but are not really moving us in the direction of that ambition.
Absolutely. You have
Yeah.
to focus on what's really going to move the needle rather than all this other busy stuff that you could be doing, right?
Yeah. So how long would you say you have been in business now?
Own business? How
Yeah.
long? My own. Wow. I started as a consultant probably in the 90s. Yeah. I started as a consultant in the 90s, even though I think I was working for Lasco and I actually traveled to Barbados all the time. And
Ah, yes, I remember that was it. You were working with Lasco. So
but I was a consultant at the time. I was working with them as a consultant. I wasn't a full-time employee, but
yeah.
I worked
So
with them.
over 25 years you have
Yeah.
been running your own business. If you were to meet with a group of Caribbean women who are now founders who are looking to get started with their own businesses, what
Mhm.
is kind of your number one message to them?
Hmm. I would say know what kind of life you want. Spend time thinking about what is really important to you. What kind of life do you want? What kind of lifestyle do you want? Do and it may change over time. I mean, I knew from very early on that I wanted a fair amount of freedom in my life. But I also wanted the stability of having an income. And so early in my career, I was lucky because I did have some clients that took up a lot of my time. So it was kind of a stable consulting arrangement when I was with Lasco. That's how it was for a good long time.
Yeah.
Uh, and all consulting is not like that. So depending on the type of business that you have, it could be very up and down for a while, and you have to be able to write that out. Or if you're lucky and you hit success right away, or you're able to pay your bills right away, that's obviously different. So I would just say to really spend some time thinking about like, what kind of lifestyle do you want? What kind of tolerance for risk do you have? I mean, if you have a bunch of kids that you got to send through school and you got to pay the school fees, you may not be able to be the entrepreneur until the kids get to a certain age, or if you have a partner that's going to help you, so all of those things really matter. Just to
Yeah.
be 100% realistic and real. I mean, I like to be real. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes you want to be an entrepreneur, but you gotta have the day job too, because you got to pay the bills to feed the kids.
Yeah.
I get that.
Absolutely.
I get that.
Absolutely. So how can people find Karen and how can people find Bloom? Because people, you need Bloom. Tell us how they can find you.
Okay, so yes, my website is Karin Yoga Life, and that's Karin, Karin with an I, KarinYogaLife.com. If you're looking for information on Bloom, it's just KarinYogaLife.com/Bloom. If you want to find me on social media, it's all Karin Yoga Life. Again, Karin. My email is Karin@KarinYogaLife. So it's pretty simple. I'd love to just talk to women who are interested in finding out more about, how being active, yoga, Pilates, strength training can help. If they're interested in joining the community, happy to just talk and see if Bloom is right for them.
I do think wellness coaches, Pilates and yoga teachers who are helping, especially women over 40, are having much more of an economic impact than you think. Because I do think, your wellness or your sense of well-being reflects back on everything that you do. So whether it's, your job, your sleep, and all of that kind of feeds back into the kind of energy that you can give to your work and your earnings. So I want to applaud you for that and acknowledge you for that.
Thank
And
you.
to those people who are listening and watching, thank you for joining us. Remember how you can find Karen and Bloom online. I want to thank you for being with us till the end of this episode. Remember that if you liked this episode, share it with a friend or leave a comment. If you watched it on YouTube, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Remember to click the bell icon to get notified every time a new episode goes live. Karen, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Diane. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. This has been episode 5, season 3 of the Island Woman podcast. I'm your Island Woman, Diane Squires, aka Diane. Until next time, peace.